Good afternoon. Hey, look, I just wanted to talk some of my subscribers a little bit about what our country has been experiencing. Okay, it has happened before in history many, many times. It's been experienced many, many times in the past, and those whom control um, the large banks, the big banks, the central banks, the elites, understand full well the type of monetary system we have and where it ultimately will lead and the chaos it will bring. Now, what I had put in front of the screen before I said hello to you guys is I had actually printed this ebook off of um, the Gutenberg ebook on the internet back in January 15th, 2007, 4 years ago about. Um, And I'm going to give you guys the link to this because I think this is really good reading for those of you who are inclined to understand the historical context and you want to see in what we're experiencing here and now in the United States and around the world in historical context. Now, the French had a horrendous experiment with fiat money, paper money. Jonathan Law um, uh, was the creator of a paper money system that led to incredible prosperity, but it led to a massive bust. Now, 70 years later, this paper is a historical account of what France went through again, despite the knowledge of the evils of fiat money. Now, this paper was written in 1912 by a Andrew Dickson White, who was late president and professor of history at Cornell University. And, he was also involved as an ambassador to Germany and minister to Russia in those times. And very, very interesting. There's a foreword that's written by Mr. John McKay, and he kind of summarizes that notwithstanding the fact that paper money issued was a direct obligation of the state, that much of it was interest bearing and all of it was secured upon the finest real estate in France. And the loss, as always, falling mostly upon the poor and the ignorant. In the attempt to maintain fixed values for paper currency, price controls come to mind in the 70s with Nixon administration. Um, Price controls have always been tried futilely by governments when they've created inflation without understanding that they just don't work. And despite fines, huge fines, imprisonments, and death threats, basically, and penalties of death, they were powerless to maintain the fixed values of the currency. But the important one is the wholesale demoralization of society took place, under which thrift, integrity, humanity, and every principle of morality were thrown into the welter of seething chaos and cruelty. Now, the powers that be understand this, okay, which is why we're seeing all of this electronic surveillance of law-abiding Americans, why we're seeing the Department of Homeland Security acting like Big Brother in 1984, why we're seeing the Department of the Transportation Security Agency acting like roadside Nazis at airports and wherever else they're going to be in the near future. But basically, they understand that when you print fiat money, in other words, paper that isn't real money, it's currency. It's basically, you know, in the United States, it's backed by debt. Whether the debt is secured to real estate or it's secured to the labors of the people who have to pay interest on the debt, it's the same thing. It's paper money. It's not silver. It's not gold. And we could see in that number 3 the fact that thrift, integrity, humanity, and every principle of morality were thrown into the welter of seething chaos and cruelty. And it seems with the FEMA camps and, what we have just witnessed, or what we witness around the country that seems to be a Nazi type of a state, it just seems that we're not that far from witnessing chaos and cruelty. And the powers that be are telegraphing their fear of chaos and cruelty, obviously, by looking to maintain such a control grid. They're the ones that brought this system to be, okay? They're the ones who profited handsomely from the system, and they also understand that ultimately people, the middle class, who many of which are, well, as they say in this, they're just ignorant. And ignorant is a negative term to many people. They think that it's an insult. But to be ignorant of something is to just not have knowledge of something. Okay? Now, basically, this is a 52-page document here that is written very, very well. But I'll just read you a couple things here. And it says here that the truth, which it presented with great clearness, being simply that doubling the quantity of money, which the United States has done since the Bush administration, probably more than double. I mean, I think Bush was around 5.5 trillion before the infamous Paulson bailout. We are now at 14 trillion. In order for that debt to be created, money had to be created, or excuse me, currency. There's a difference. Okay? So in this historical account, the doubling of the quantity of money, or substitutes for money, which fiat currency is a substitute. It's a money substitute. The Federal Reserve notes in your wallet is a money substitute. In a nation, simply increases prices, disturbs values, alarms capital, diminishes legitimate enterprise, decreases both demand for products and for labor, that only persons to be helped by it are the rich who have large debts to be paid. And here we go, there's a couple more. The interesting thing is the more that money was printed, the more that what they called specie, that is actual hard cash, gold and silver, kept disappearing because people were hoarding it. And that actually increased the problems for France. And this disappearance of specie was the result of a natural law as simple and as sure in its action as gravitation. The superior currency had been withdrawn because an inferior currency could be used. And that inferior currency is known as Greshams Law. Greshams Law, okay, means that bad money drives out good money. So why would people use their good money if they can use bad money? So in actuality, it is counterproductive. And still another troublesome fact began to appear. Though paper money had increased in amount, prosperity had steadily diminished. Now, I think that kind of describes the United States quite well, doesn't it? I mean, no matter how many bailouts they do, no matter how much the federal deficit goes up, no matter how much money they print, what happens? Prosperity is just continuing to be drained away. And it's getting worse and worse. Then we go to the next page, paragraph down towards the bottom. Thus came a collapse in manufacturing and commerce, just as it had come previously in France, just as it had come at various periods in Austria, Russia, America, and in all countries where men have tried to build up prosperity on irredeemable paper. Now that's exactly what you have in your wallets, okay? Federal Reserve notes are irredeemable. Walk into a bank with a $50 bill, what are they going to give you? 51s, two 20s and a 10, 10 5s, 5 10s. What are you going to get? Paper for paper. I mean, it's just nominal value. It's not real value. When you go in and exchange a $50 bill at the bank, do they give you $50 worth of gold or $50 worth of a commodity or $50 worth of silver or $50 worth of anything that would be considered real? No. You exchange paper for paper. Nominal value for nominal value. Real value is out of the equation. Now, I don't want to bore people here, okay, because I know some people don't like to get too intellectual about things, okay? But I'm going to put this link on the bottom for you, and you're going to find that it literally describes the modern housing bubble and debt bubble to a T on page 21. And remember, this is France, 1790, okay? And I'll read you just a little part of it. This outgrowth was a vast debtor class in the nation directly interested in the depreciation of the currency in which they were to pay their debts. Okay, so people in debt almost have an interest in seeing the currency devalued because they realize that if they have debt, and the more debt they have, and the more the currency is devalued, the real value of that debt is declined. So, there's just so much in this. There is just so much. If you read this, it'll blow you away. Every congressman and senator should have been required to read a paper such as this. Okay, that, oh, here's another one. The paper money of a nation seemed to possess a magic power to transmute prosperity into adversity and plenty into famine. It was simply a feverish activity caused by the intense desire of a large number of the shrewder class, okay, to convert their paper money into anything and everything which they can hold and hoard until the collapse which they foresaw could take place. This very activity in business simply indicated the disease. It was simply legal robbery of the more enthusiastic and trusting by the more cold-hearted and keen. It was the unloading of currency upon the masses of people. And then, of course, the question will naturally be asked, on whom did this vast depreciation mainly fall? And of course, it falls on the working classes. Yes, all you men and women in the labor unions. Yes, all you folks that work at the post office, where all your money has gone to, paid in. The union made huge donations to Mr. Obama's campaign, if I remember correctly. So, prices of all commodities went up, nearly in proportional to the amount of currency. Everything was enormously inflated in price, except the wages of labor. So now you've heard, oh, there's going to be deflation. So what happens? Wage rates are falling, right? That's deflation. Yes, that's deflationary. But the cost of everything is going up. I mean, this is standard science. Standard. Okay? It found the country utterly impoverished, and its only resource at first was to print more paper and to issue even while wet from the press. Today, they don't even have to print. They just go on the computer, a couple bookkeeping entries, and, let's wire the money over after the Secretary-Treasurer, authorized by Congress, authorizes more debt. It's that simple. I highly recommend that you read this, okay? I'll leave the link in the bottom. Thank you for listening, And please do read this. It'll explain a lot to you about what we're going in, what we're into, how we got here, and where we're going. And it ain't good. Because remember, this led to the French Revolution, and it led to France selling the Louisiana territories to America in 1803. The French lost everything. And it was because of the bankers. Take care.